Welcome back to The Average Drinker. I'm Dara, I'm your average drinker, and today I have an awesome video for you. This is one a lot of people have been requesting. They're like, okay, yeah, you show us all these allocated bottles, you talk about these awesome, delicious whiskeys, but nobody can find them. So why don't you show us something that we can actually find? And that's exactly what I'm going to do in this video. I have 7 highly allocated bottles that somehow we were very fortunate and lucky to get on any given day that we got them. We were very lucky to get them and find them for retail price. So just because I can find them doesn't mean you can, and vice versa. So in this video, I've got 7 alternatives to those highly allocated bottles. And I'm excited for this because I got to drink all of them and compare them and go back and forth, and believe me, I did a lot of testing on the shelf. Bill did a lot of testing. We wanted to find very close alternatives. Some of them might be off a little bit on proof or might be slightly different on flavor. There's not going to be ever a perfect match for these highly allocated bottles. But these are pretty close and these are pretty good. And most of the time, in most places, you can find these alternatives. So let's kick this off with one that everybody seems to want these days. And that is Blanton's. Blanton's. This is still one of my favorite bottles of all time. I think it's one of the coolest looking bottles. This is the first bourbon I went to the shelf and I was like, this is a cool bottle. That's why I want to try it. So it's a cool bottle. It's hard to find. Most of the time you're paying secondary for it, or you get lucky and you find it for retail. So an alternative to this one is something else in the Buffalo Trace line. Yeah, I went that direction, but I went with Buffalo Trace because here's why. In blends, I don't get a ton of complexity. I don't get a ton of outrageous flavor. I just get a good classic bourbon with good caramel and vanilla, lightly oaked, a decent finish, a low proof. I mean, we're about talking 93 proof, somewhere around there. 93, I believe that's what yeah, 93 proof. So something very comparable, doesn't have a ton of flavor. You can usually find this bottle in most places. It's actually become one that we can find more often in Colorado. I see it at pretty much every liquor store now. I know a lot of times it'll say limit 1 per customer, but in Colorado, I can find this one. I hope you can find this where you are too. If you can't, you might have to look a little bit harder. But this one also comes in, I want to say 90 proof. So this one's at 90 proof. Very, very close in proof. Also very close in flavor. Not anything overly exciting on this one. But it's a good classic bourbon. And it's honestly a great warm-up pour. Both of these are. So this is my first alternative. 2 blends. You get Buffalo Trace. Obviously the same like Buffalo Trace, right? So that's what we have for the first one. Okay, so next up, I have one of my favorite wheated bourbons, because if you don't know, well, if you know me and you've watched my channel, you know that wheated bourbons are not my favorite, but I really enjoy this one. I love the Wellers. I love the Weller Full Proof, and this Weller Antique 107 is so good. It has a great amount of sweetness with a little bit of spice to back it up, and the proof behind it, which is really nice for me. If I'm looking for a wheated bourbon, I want to have a little bit of proof. But this one is highly allocated too. It's very hard to find. Some states it's a little bit easier, but in Colorado, this one is really tough to find. Otherwise, you're going to be paying secondary. Nobody wants to do that. Well, maybe they do. And if you do, good for you. You know what? You can buy whatever whiskey you want to buy. You can spend whatever money you want on your whiskey because it's your whiskey. You're the one drinking it. And that is why whiskey is so fun, right? You get to do whatever the heck you want. You can drink it however the heck you want. All right. So now before I get on my pedestal or get off of my pedestal and get on to some Dara rant, it's time to show you what a good alternative bottle is for this one. And that is Maker's Mark Cask Strength. I know, you might think to me, Dara, I can't even find that one where I live. I think this one is way easier to find than the Weller Antique 107. I see this one on the shelves like often in Colorado. There hasn't been a time where I haven't really seen it. So they come in at very similar proof points. This one's 107. This one's about 110. They're both wheated bourbons. They both have very similar taste profiles. To me, I get a little bit sharper edges on the Maker's Mark cask strength. It is a little bit more like it's not as well balanced. The nose is a little bit more like Sharpie to me, but I also don't love Maker's Mark. But I do think, I really do, I did these in a blind, I really do think that this Maker's Mark cask strength is a great alternative to this Weller Antique 107. Very similar overall, and you can find it in most places. Sorry if you can't, but this is a highly allocated bottle. This one, not so much. So, very similar, good stuff. Both taste good. I actually do enjoy both of these. So that is the second bottle I've got. Okay, so the next bottle I have for you is the Old Forester Single Barrel Bourbon Barrel Strength. This is the 134 proofer. This is a great bottle, but again, it's hard to find. It's highly allocated. I have actually only seen this one like one time. I have not seen it since then. Somehow we just got lucky and picked it up. It was a store pick, and we got in there when they had it. So this one's delicious. It's like bananas and cinnamon and enough spice that I really enjoy the proof behind this one. But again, it's not one everybody can find. So an alternative to this one is 1792 Foolproof. I think that these bottles are very, very similar. If you can't find one, find the other, because you're going to find very similar flavors. You're going to get the bananas. You're going to get the sweetness. You're going to get the spice on the back end. The proof on this one, on the Foolproof, is at 125. So while it might be a little bit under this 134, it's still up there. It's still a high proofer. Like, I'm thinking 125 and above is kind of in a similar category, right? Until you get to like 140, then it's like, holy moly, that's spicy. So to me, these bottles are very similar. They're both delicious. You can find the 1792 Foolproof way more than you can find this Old Forester Single Barrel Strength Bourbon. Whoa, that's a big mouthful. That is a big mouthful. But they're both delicious. I love both of these. Really enjoy both of them. Actually, I don't know. I think I might like one over the other. No, I don't. They're very close. If I did them blind, which I kind of want to do now, just to see which one would win, but I think it'd be close. So another great alternative right here in this bottle and this bottle. Great bottles. Next up, I have another delicious bottle. Whoa, that was wild. I'm like sitting here recording this, and all of a sudden my dog just starts growling in the background. I just had a squirrel moment for sure. Definitely a squirrel moment right there. Okay, that's okay. We can let that one go, right? You guys know I'm a squirrel. You already know. If you're watching this, you already know. Okay, now let me get into the next bottle. And the next bottle is Booker's, right? Booker's. You see these on the shelf. They come in the little boxes, I believe. They come in these cool little boxes. They're really hard to find. I have only seen one on the shelf one time in all of my whiskey adventuring. So, yes, this is the Booker's tag along, but this allocated bottle, I have an alternate for any of the Bookers, right? You're going to get this nutty, high proof, like spice back end, delicious bottle. But not everybody can find it. So the alternative to it is actually something I like better than the Bookers. Sorry, Bookers fans. I like this one better. This is the 9-year Knob Creek Single Barrel. This is not, well, I just said 9 years. This one comes in at 120 proof. The Bookers come in at 127 proof, this particular one. So close enough in proof. Similar taste profiles. They're both going to have some nuttiness. They're both going to have the proof. They're both going to have a little bit of spice intertwined in them. Some of those caramel and vanilla and classic bourbon flavors. But one thing I really enjoy out of this particular batch of this Knob Creek Single Barrel is a little bit of a cherry note. It's a little bit sweeter, a little bit richer compared to this Booker's, and that's why I think it is a great alternative to the Booker's, and in fact, I like it actually a little bit better. Yes, I said I like a Knob Creek better than a Booker's, which is weird because if you know me, if you know when I first started drinking whiskey, I didn't even like Knob Creek. I was like, I don't even like Knob Creek. And now I'm like, this one is really good. And in fact, it's better than the allocated bottle. So there's that one. That's another bottle for you. Another alternative to this highly allocated bottle. Now let's see what we got next on this table over here next to me. Ooh, we're getting into good stuff now. No, I'm just kidding. All of these are good. All of these are good, but we're really getting into good stuff. So the next bottle I have for you is this Michter's Toasted Barrel. Oh my gosh, I got lucky and won this one in a raffle, and holy moly, it is so good. It is so balanced. It has a beautiful finish to it. It is one of my favorite finishes with some like coffee and marshmallow. It tastes like literally you like roasted a marshmallow, you peeled it off of the stick, and then you lick the stick, and you can still kind of get some of that smokiness from the toasting, the char that's on the stick from the marshmallow. It's so good. Anyhow, this is a delicious bottle of whiskey. This one comes in at 91 proof. It's a great one, but it is very allocated. I only got it because I won it in a raffle. Super allocated, but there are some good bottles that I think. And I said bottles because I have two for you. Because the next one I'm about to bring up might be kind of hard to find too, depending on where you're at. So the next one I have is the Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel. This is a really, really great toasted finished bourbon. It's delicious. I love it. Comes in at 94 proof. I think it is comparable to the Michter's Toasted Barrel. They're both really, really good. I love them. I would interchange them. I would do them in a blind, and it would probably come out similar depending on the day. So I love these both. Like I said, they have a similar proof. But sometimes you can't find the Elijah Craig Toasted Barrel either. Depending on where you're at, it's probably also allocated. So I have another option for you, and that option is, let me move it out of my face, the Penelope Toasted Barrel Strength Bourbon. Okay, I said barrel strength bourbon, right? This is 111 proof. So it is a little bit higher, right? This one's at 91. This is 111. So this one's going to have more proof on it. But I get some of the very similar flavors that I get to this Michter's Toasted on this Penelope Toasted. Some of them you can get higher chars, but you can find Penelope everywhere. I mean, I see it everywhere. And if you can't, you can even order it off their site. So it's awesome. It's a delicious bottle, and it is another alternative. So I've got two alternatives here. If you can't find one, you can find the other. And I think these are all so delicious. It doesn't matter what time of year. You can drink these in the summer while you're having a campfire, or you can drink these in the winter to warm up and feel toasted, like while you're eating s'mores. Or in the summer, I guess, because you eat s'mores in the summer. You might eat them in the winter too. Anyhow, that was another squirrel moment from me. So let me put these down and bring out the next one. So the next one is one of my favorite bottles of all time. It is Stag Junior. I love this cherry vanilla Coke bomb, delicious, high proof, wonderful bottle, right? I love it. You guys know I love it. I've talked about it so many times, and I know so many of you also love Stag Junior. But again, it's highly allocated. It's nearly impossible to find, but I think I have found a perfect alternative to this bottle. I'm shocked by it, actually. Really shocked by it. Let me bring it out. Blue Note, juke joint, uncut, unfiltered. Yeah, seriously, an allocated, this is the highly allocated one, but this one you can actually find for $40 to $45, right? So delicious. They're both similar proofs, right? This one comes in at 123. This one comes in at 129. Sometimes they're a little less, sometimes they're a little more on the Stag Juniors. So they're very similar proofs. I also get similar flavors. This one, I get that cinnamon burst in the back end that I love so much on the Stag Junior, but I also get that sweet richness from like cherries and caramels and just really baked vanilla, cinnamon bombs, and they're so, so good. Both of these are so good, and I really, really do think that this Blue Note juke joint, uncut, unfiltered, store pick, Store pick, I said. There are a lot of store picks. I've seen them in a lot of states. I think they're very similar. And obviously, nothing is going to be a perfect match to Stag Junior because, well, it's Stag Junior. But this is a great alternative for this bottle. This is what this video is about, right? Alternatives to highly allocated whiskeys. And this is a good one right here. Okay, so now it is time to move on to the last highly allocated bottle. But holy moly, it is not the least by any means. This is one absolute amazing, delicious bottle. But holy moly, is it hard to find. This is the Jack Daniel's Coy Hill. Oh yeah, this is so good, so wonderful. Oh. Oops, I did it again. Forgot to turn the bottle around. Okay, good thing sometimes I have somebody sitting in the room. They're like, Dara, your bottle's backwards. Oops. Anyhow, the Jack Daniel's Coy Hill. Holy moly, delicious, amazing. Thought I'd never see the day that I'd get to try. Well, I tried several before I actually got one. A lot of friends gave me samples of theirs to try. But then we won this one in the whiskey raffle. Holy moly, I was so excited. I was like, whoa, we got a Coy Hill. We got a Coy Hill. But honestly, it's nearly impossible. Never saw this on the shelf, ever. Never. Not even anywhere. Not even for some ridiculous secondary market prices. Never saw it anywhere. I mean, the color on this one, holy moly, it's so rich. This is a high proof one for sure. I mean, we're talking 140 proof, right? High proof, but it holds together so well. There's so much flavor in this one, like banana, light banana, and caramel, and vanilla, and a little bit of oak, and then just cinnamon spice, and it's just so much complexity. It tastes like a baked cinnamon roll, honestly. A baked cinnamon roll with proof behind it that holds it up like a highly glazed toasted cinnamon roll. Oh, it's so good. Anyhow, enough about this. It's so good and it's so delicious, but I do have a great alternative to it, and that is something very similar, but much easier to find. And this time, I actually got it turned around right. This is the Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Barrel Proof. Holy moly, this one's delicious. This one comes in at 127.2 proof, so it's a little bit lower in proof. It's a single barrel. It's not a store pick, I don't think. No, single barrel, barrel proof. This is delicious. So delicious. You get some of those similar flavors, but to me, this one is like a super delicious bananas, Foster, cinnamon, spiced French toast. So good. It's very comparable to the Coy Hill. It's not a perfect match, but it's very comparable. And it's not quite as high in proof, so it doesn't necessarily kick your butt quite as much. Still very delicious, really, really good. And I would highly recommend this one in place of the Coy Hill if you need an alternative to it, because it's just as good. Well, no, it's not just as good, but it's very good. It's very, very good. I really enjoy this one. I love it. It finished in the top of a blind recently on one of my live streams, and I really, really enjoy it. So let me set these back down. Bam. Bam. Okay, so now that I got those out of the way, I guess that's really all I've got for you today. Those are 7 highly allocated bottles. Gave you some alternatives to those. What are your favorite alternative bottles to highly allocated whiskey? Do you have some? I've heard people say that Eagle Rare and, what is it? Eagle Rare. I'm having a brain fart here for a second. Oh, whoa. I had a brain fart there for sure, just for a minute. But I have heard people say that Eagle Rare is really similar to Russell's Reserve 10-year. You can find the 10-year. Sometimes Eagle Rare is hard to find. I don't know. I don't see the similarities. Do you? Have you tried that? Let me know what you think in the comments. Tell me your favorite alternatives. Love to hear them. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching The Average Drinker. I'm Dara, and I'll be back with so much more. See you next time.